happy that we could come together for the October classes. And this evening, our moderator is Reverend Dr. Namseng Marak. He is the assistant professor in Christian ministry at Harding Theological College, Dura, Meghalaya. He did his doctorate from Northeastern Hill University, and we're happy that a senior person, he's also academic dean of the college, and he will be moderating our session tonight and also tomorrow evening. So now I hand over the rest of the time to him, but before that, I want to introduce Kivi Kali. You see around here, Kivi Kali, she is working in the CBCNI, Council of Baptist Churches in Northeast India, as an editor. And she is helping us from last month in contacting and also receiving application and many things in relation to the training program she is helping. So we are very happy that she could give time, and let us welcome her to this program. Okay, now Kivi is here. So please show your picture, your photo. Now we are 76. So a good number of people have come. So may I give time to Dr. Namseng to take over the time.
Thank you, sir. Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right. Good evening, good morning, and also good afternoon to all the friends who are participating in this program. I would like to welcome each and every one of you to this I am ABC and NECU leadership training. Today is 14th October, and the time is 6:30 here in India, and little more different from some of the places of the neighboring countries, and also there may be some time different for those participating in the West, but we are all here together in the common platform. So I'm happy and glad to welcome each one of you to this special program being organized by the IMABC and the NECU. Today we have two of our facilitators who will be presenting to us on the topic understanding the migrant workers, human trafficking, and marginalized diaspora, support and care mechanism during pandemic. And to present these papers, we have two of our facilitators, as mentioned earlier, and one of the facilitators is Mrs. Soma Chakraborty. I would like to welcome her, and also I would like to introduce her for the benefit of all of us. Madam, may we see your face? Or at least can we hear your voice, Madam?
Yes, good morning, good evening, and to all of you. I don't know exactly what is other time zones, but yes, good wishes.
Thank you, Madam, for showing your beautiful face to all of us. Madam Soma Chakraborty is the Associate Director, and she is working as the Associate Director at the Trafficking India and also Mission Coordination Committee. And she is also working as the community-based organization, liaison manager of Global Fund to End Modern Slavery project with My Choices Foundation. She is also a resource person for the Diocese of Durgapur, Church of North India, and Auxilium Convent schools under Don Bosco Sisters. We shall be enlightened with her experiences and her sharing. We also have our resource person, and he is none other than Dr. Chuba Longkumer. He got his doctoral degree from the Old Testament from the Synod of Serampur, and at present he is the principal of Everest Theological Seminary in Kathmandu, Nepal. Sir, may you also kindly show your face? Dr. Chuba?
Yes, here I am. Thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
Yeah,
Yes, sir. Very glad to see you.
good to see you
We'll
all.
be learning
Thank
a
you.
lot from you. Yes. First of all, I would like to give time to Madam Soma Chakraborty, and she can take her time. And if there are any questions from the participants, the questions can be posted in the chat box. So now we just time to the first facilitator, Mrs. Soma Chakraborty. Yes.
Thank you so much, Brother Namseng. So I will just take some time in sharing my screen. Hope you all can see my screen.
Yes, madam. Yes.
So today, as shared by Brother, uh, uh, today's topic is understanding the migrant workers and the marginalized diaspora. So to begin with, I will just try to understand from your perspective that what do you understand by migrants? What is migration? What do you understand? Maybe one or two can say that who are migrants? Who are migrants? Just maybe one or two students, if you can just share. Who are migrants? Nobody?
The moving of people from one place to the other place.
That is a process. I'm asking, who are the migrants? Who are migrants? It's you and me. We are not in the same place where we are born. Maybe many of us actually, as brother just introduced our brother Chuba and myself also. Like I am born and brought up in Odisha. I studied there, but see, I'm here today in Kolkata. So basically, then I have also moved from one place to another, and I am also a migrant. Then let us understand now what has become our perspective of migrants after COVID-19. So if we just have a look here, I'll begin with the definition that human migration is a movement of people from one place in the world to another. The movement of a person or a people from one country, one locality, the place of residence, etc., to maybe settle down, to work in other place. It is the very basic of migration. It is normal human activity. There is no crime in it. There is nothing wrong in it. Human beings have always moved from one country, one locality, or one place of residence to settle and go to another place to settle down to work. It is very normal. Okay, and if we are seeing the picture which I have shared here, there is a graph which shows that in 2017 and 2018, where India stands. What is where is India standing so far migration is concerned? Now, let us go and see what Bible has to say about migration, what the scriptures has to say about migration. So coming back to the scriptures in the Bible, the story of God's chosen people, the Israelites, is a story of wandering, from many places. Like they were all migrants who were migrating from Egypt to the promised land in the last time during Moses. They were all were migrants, and they were migrating from the promised land of Canaan. Then we come see Joseph. Joseph is a perfect example of trafficking. Like his brothers, they trafficked him, they sold him, and Joseph is sent into slavery in a strange land. If you read Genesis 37 to 46, you will have a very clear understanding. And if you have the word unsafe migration in one corner of your mind, and then read the chapter where Joseph, it talks about Joseph and his brothers and about his time, you will have a clear picture that he's a perfect example of unsafe migration and trafficking. Then we come to Moses flees from Midian and finds shelter in the house of Jethro, I mean the priest. And if you read Exodus chapter 2 from 15 to 22, it clearly talks about how and why did Moses flee from Egypt and settle down and go to Midian, and why did he settle down there. Then comes Ruth. Ruth accompanies Naomi to foreign land and finds favor in the eyes of Boaz. If you read Ruth chapter 2, you will find that she also migrated with her mother-in-law. We all know that Mary and Joseph also, to save baby Jesus, they also fled. They also migrated from one place to the other. And Jesus and his disciples, they kept on, to spread the good news, to bring the gospel to the people. They always change from one place to another. Now let's see, what is God's heart? What does God think, believe, and want us to do from towards the migrants people, or what is his perspective, his attitude towards the migrants, like God's attitudes towards the migrants. If we read the Bible, we find God's concern for the well-being of the migrants. Repeatedly, the people of Israel are instructed to remember the strangers among them and treat them with love, compassion, and justice. So this is what God's heart is. God wants that we should treat them with love, compassion, and justice. So this is somewhere, if we again start thinking, this is somewhere our calling also is, how we respond to the migrants. We'll come to it later. Let us read some verses which will further help us to understand God's attitude. Now, if we read Exodus 22:21, I've just, taken and noted the summary of the verse, which is, do not mistreat or oppress a foreigner, for you were foreigners in Egypt. So at some point of time, if we are making fun of somebody who is a non-resident here, or who has come to stay here, people do have a tendency of bullying them. Maybe in school, maybe in colleges, maybe in the workplace. So they have the tendency of bullying. It is very bad, because our scriptures, the Bible clearly says, do not mistreat or oppress a foreigner, for you were also foreigners in Egypt. So we were also, maybe in some point of time, we were also a foreigner in some town or in some city. Deuteronomy 24:14 clearly says that do not take advantage of a hired worker who is poor and needy, whether that worker is a fellow Israelite or a foreigner residing in one of your towns. So now again, coming back to migrants, labor and slavery. here it is said, there are a lot of people who, hire poor people for 24/7 to work in their house, and we are in a and those family, they tell that, okay, she was not getting food in her on her plate, she was not getting appropriate meal, so at least she is getting in my place. She is getting good clothes to wear. She is having good place to live. So what's wrong if she is doing some household chores? No, we are taking advantage of their vulnerability, their poverty. So Deuteronomy 24:14 clearly says that we should not take advantage. Leviticus 19:9 and 10. When you reap the harvest of your land, do not reap to the very edges of your field or gather the gleanings of your harvest. Do not go over your vineyards a second time to pick up grapes that have fallen. Leave them for the poor and the foreigner. I am the Lord your God. So this is not, again, people try to justify telling that, no, we should not waste. So it is not wasting. There are some unknown people who might be needing that portion, who might be needing that portion of your harvest. So leave it. So if we look further, there are other Bible verses in Leviticus 19:34, which says the foreigner residing among you must be treated as your native born. So brothers and sisters, today I don't know which language you speak, what is your nativity, but if a foreigner is coming to your land, please give them proper service. By service, I mean make them comfortable in your native land. Make them comfortable. It will only help you to build a relationship, and because breaking a relationship takes a minute, but building it takes time, and it is a lovely chance for you to build this relationship and share the good news with them. Love them as yourself, for they were foreigners in Egypt. I, the Lord your God. I am the Lord your God. Deuteronomy 14:28 and 29. At the every 3 years, end of every 3 years, bring all tithes of that produce and store it in your towns, so that the Levites who have no allotment or no inheritance of their own, and the foreigners, the fatherless, and the widows who live in your towns may come and eat and be satisfied, and so that the Lord your God may bless you in all the work of your hands. Amen. So just to get the blessing, when God doesn't see them in a meager way, I would rather say the way we look at the migrants, in a very meager way. The word itself has become a taboo now. Refugees, migrant, and migrants is always connected with migrant laborers only. So if I am born and brought up in Odisha, and today I am living in Kolkata, I am here in Kolkata because I wanted labor. So from my labor, I try to earn money and run my family. But nobody calls me a migrant labor. We have classified it. So we have to come out from that, because God treats us all equal. Now let us have a technical understanding. This is what God's attitude, God's understanding, and God wants us to have. God wants us what our attitude should be towards migrant. Now let us understand the whole concept of migration. Who are the migrants, and why today the word migration has become a taboo. So if you see this circle type thing, these are the many types of migration which is there. Temporary migration, permanent migration, internal migration, international migration, rural to urban migration, urban to rural migration, seasonal migration, forced migration. I think by some of the terms, you well understand that what is temporary migration, what is permanent migration, and to the others, I will explain. So let us see, what do you understand by internal migration? Types of migration, I will explain one by one. Now, internal migration, moving to a new home within the state, country, or continent. You know, like we are in that locality, so that is internal migration for us. If we are migrating within the state or within the country, it is internal for us, but we are still a migrant to the place we are moving. Now, suppose I am from Kolkata and I am going to Assam. I'm migrating to Assam. I will have an understanding that yes, this is an internal migration. Why? Because I am in my same country. But the people of Assam will tell me that I am a migrant. You know, that is why there is whole lot of, for me, it is internal migration, but from them, I am an outsider. What is external migration? Again, it is from the perspective from moving to a new home in a different state, different country, or a different continent altogether. When you are in the same, or when you are changing, it is the perspective which makes it mainly internal or external. Now, what is forced migration? See, we all know the one, of course, the definition is here, but I will try to explain you from the situation which is in Myanmar today, the Rohingyas, which are, you know, they are sort of like they are victimized of forced migration. When a government forces a large group of people out of their region, usually based on their ethnicity or religion. So because of this, these aspects, mainly these aspects, this is called forced migration. Now the government won't say you get out, no. But you know, I think that we are all aware of this NRC and the CAA which was going on. So, you know, like it was like government was not giving you, taking you to the border and pushing you from Indian border to go, you go to Myanmar, you go away to Bangladesh, or you go away to Pakistan. No, government is not doing that. But the system, the policy which they are making or changing or doing amendment to, it is those system which is directly, indirectly, you know, giving a fear factor that, okay, now we are forced to move out of this country where we are living. Return migration means, like, suppose I have gone to Assam for maybe a year or so, and now I am returning back to my place. It is called, like, I am returning to my place back, wherever I am from. Seasonal migration. There are a lot of people, those who go in the winter season or the summer season, like all the bricklayer workers. They are migrated from one place of their native place to the place where the bricklayers are. So and the bricklaying work starts in the month of October and it extends till the month of June, mid-June, unless there is monsoon. So you see that these are called seasonal migration, and when it starts raining, either they pick up some other work in the same place, or they again take up return migration. Means for those 3 months, 4 months when there is rainy season, they go back to their native place. And lastly, immigration. Like suppose I am an Indian now, and I am thinking of settling down or taking a residential visa for US or Australia or Canada, then it is like I am moving to a new country, and I will immigrate. Now again, I want to hear one thing from you all. If one or two people can just share that, is migration a crime? Is migration a crime?
No.
No. Then why the word migrants or refugees become as a very alarming factor, or maybe a sense of embarrassment. I know that whenever we talk, we spell the word migrants, we spell the word refugees, like we take a step back. Why that feeling is there among us? Why that feeling? Can you tell? Maybe one or two? You are understanding what I'm trying to say. Like initially, I will tell you, my grandmother and my father, they all belonged from the Bangladesh. And so when there was division, Bangladesh and India, there was a partition taking place, they had come this side. So, my father suffered a lot of complex when, people told him when in his childhood that, okay, you are a refugee. You are a refugee. You are not an Indian. You're not an Indian. So, I took some of his thoughts, and, and people, when they started addressing me that, oh, you are a Bangladeshi, I was also, petrified. So why that sense comes? Isn't Bangladesh a country? Isn't India a country? So why that comes? So let me explain in my next slide. This sense comes when we adopt the wrong way of migrating. Why? Yeah. Somebody wants to say something? Can I proceed?
Yes, ma'am, you can continue.
Thank you. So, why we have this feeling, if I could put my feeling in a right way, why we have this feeling is that in somewhere in our subconscious mind, we are made to feel guilty that we migrated, but because we did not migrate in a right way, we did not take the right process, we have to bow our heads down. We are made to feel ashamed. That is some guilt which is internally, which is bothering us. That is why that feeling of a step back comes. So now let us see here in this slide that migration. We learned about what is permanent migration, what is temporary migration, what is seasonal migration, what is other forms of migration which you had. Now there are 4 major types of migration which can explain you that migration is not a crime. Safe migration, unsafe migration, legal and illegal migration. Now let me tell you, students, that it can be safe. A migration can be safe, but it is not legal. Now, for example, when I am coming from, suppose if I am residing in Bangladesh and I want to settle down in Bengal or India, I am catching hold of a tout and I am coming, my family and myself, we are coming to India, and the tout gives me a A1 service. I don't have any obstacles in my journey. It is a safe migration. But at the same time, is it a legal migration? No, it is an illegal migration. Although my journey will be maybe smooth, although maybe that I am bribing many officers, whomever I am meeting, although maybe that nobody caught me while I am crossing the borders, it is a safe migration, but it is an illegal migration. In the same way, migration can be legal but not safe. Now, again, I am an Indian, and Indians go out in different countries for search of job. Now a person comes and offers and gives me a job offer with a lavish lifestyle and lot of money. And of course, to go to maybe Australia or New Zealand or any European countries, you have to have a thorough legal documents. Documents should be in place. And I do all of that. I give my voter card, I give my PAN card, I give my Aadhaar card and all other documents. And that person then takes me to maybe Netherlands and sells me in Amsterdam. So although I had legal papers, my migration was all legal on papers, correct, but it is an unsafe migration. So we cannot tell that although I am having a safe migration, my migration is legal. We cannot say that although my migration is legal, but it is safe. It can be illegal also. It can be illegal, but not safe. So, it's a crisscross factor. Now, this is a glance of our India, that usually from which parts of the country, peoples migrate to another part of the country. So if you study this map very clearly, you will see that from the most of the east, the migration happens. And all the migrants usually go to the west. Only there is one place which is West Bengal, mainly Kolkata, Haldia, where it is a source, it is a destination also. Like people also come to this place for work. Now, when I say Assam, you must keep it in mind, and the West Bengal also, that whole of Northeast, they either come to Assam and then disperse to different location, or they come to West Bengal and then disperse. So that's why we haven't shown like the direct channels from Northeast to other Western states, but it is like all Assam and West Bengal, because they are first imported, or they first come to these two states and then disperse. Now let us study the definition of each, like what is safe migration, what is unsafe migration, and so on. So what is safe migration? Safe migration means that the migrants are protected from any risk to their health, legal status, or life at all the stages of the migration in the countries of origin, transit, and destination. Again, to make you understand with an explanation, like I was just sharing with Sir Wati, that I am born and brought up in Odisha, and when I got a job offer from Compassion International, I came to work in Kolkata. So I had a safe migration. My health was like I joined here and I did not face any health hazards. I traveled and I could document all my legal papers very well. And in all the stages of migration process, like whatever, like residential proof, then PAN card had to be brought along, voter card had to be transferred, then gas thing had to be transferred. So all those processes took place and I had come through proper train, so I had tickets for it. So all proper documentation was there, and I came and I did not face any risk. So that is a safe migration. What is unsafe migration? Unsafe migration is very similar of human trafficking. Unsafe migration is the recruitment, transportation, transfer, harboring, or receipt of people through force, fraud, deception, with the aim of exploiting them for profit. This is also known as human trafficking. So, when one person is treated as a commodity and they are brought from one place to another, and obviously if I tell somebody that, okay, Miss so and so, would you like to I have a job offer for you and you will get like 60,000 rupees per month and your lifestyle will be very good, And so what is that first question she's going to ask me? Definitely that, okay, what will be my JD? What will be my job description? Where am I working? And I will say that, oh, you're going to work in a red light area and you are going to be you have to you will be in a red light area where you will be forced into flesh trade. So is she going to agree? No, she's not, definitely not going to agree. So it is by force or deceit or fraud, that people, the traffickers, the agents, they take them. And what is the main intention behind taking them? It is just exploiting that girl, even the boy, and profit will gain them profit in terms of money. What is illegal migration? Illegal migration is something when you are violating the law of both the countries. Like you are, if I am a Bangladeshi, I am not abiding by the law, immigration laws of Bangladesh, and I am also not abiding by the immigration law of India, and I am just leaving one country and entering other country. That is illegal migration. Now we'll understand that we understood that unsafe migration and human trafficking is like hand in gloves. It has a very thin line, very thin line. Now, what makes the community, vulnerable? I mean to say that why do people fall prey to unsafe migration? What are those circumstances which compel people to choose an unsafe migration? I'll just read out for you. Poverty, unemployment, and financial scarcity. I need not explain, these are very self-explanatory. Like, we have seen poverty all around us, we understand, we have seen unemployment around us, and lack of proper finance in to run a family, which actually compels the members of the family to just to migrate somewhere. They don't usually bother whether it is safe, whether it is unsafe, what is unsafe. They don't bother, they just go for money. Need to earn more money for survival, obligation to support the family monetarily, lack of an enabling education system. So because I am uneducated, because I haven't been sent to school, and because I don't have that sensitization or the awareness in myself or my family, that's why I usually walk that path of unsafe migration. Social exclusion and discrimination, particularly, you already know that minority communities, they face in fact it is increasing more and more. Persecution is increasing more and more, and that is why like the minority communities. Now minority communities, I don't only say that it is like of people of other faith, but even the social outcast tribes, even some tribal people, some scheduled castes, they treat very badly, and that is which actually encourages these minority communities to leave their land and just go anywhere without thinking what is going to happen to them. Gender-based discrimination and violence. There are a lot of like how the girl child is treated in the family, in and around the villages of many Indian states, which forces the girl to just hold one hand, and she tries to prove herself more than the boy, and that is with that expectation she just leaves the house, and then she falls prey to human trafficking. Lure for a better life. Too much ambition among youths. The youths today, they are all in media, and this media shows a very glossy picture of life, which actually encourages them to leave their native place and look for a better life. Of course, everybody looks for a better life, but we should be patient, and we should be very diplomatic and diligent to experiment those new lines. But these youths, they they get so engrossed with that glossy life that they just fall prey to human trafficking. Desire to provide better life to the family. Now we will see that who facilitates this.
Excuse me, madam.
Yes.
Let me interrupt you once.
Yeah.
The time allotment is only 45 minutes, so you may have to finish within 5-6 minutes.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, yes.
Thank you.
I'm sorry.
No, I'll try to wrap up.
Okay.
So,
okay, madam. Okay.
Who are these traffickers? Who facilitates this migration? They may be one among your family and friends. These are the men and boys in and around the village. They come as matchmakers for your daughters, for your daughter to give a wedding to for your daughter, and these are official recruiters. Like, I have a job in Delhi, I have a job in Mumbai, you come along. These are the traffickers, these are the agents, those who come and prey among these children or the maybe the poor and the vulnerable families. I will just I wanted to of course I'll be sharing this material with you so you can read these specific cases. These cases were all in the courtroom, so very authentic cases. If you have I'll share it with you and you can read these cases to understand, to get a understanding that what unsafe migration can lead to. Now, what are the conditions in which these migrant laborers they live? See, sleeping on the floor or in the open areas with no privacy, working 7 days a week with no day off, starting at about 5 a.m. in the morning and going late night. No wages. They promise a lot, but they give very little. They will allow you no social contact with any other boys and girls. The health they suffer from, that will not be treated well. They will not be allowed to meet or call their family. No access to TV, radio, or internet, nothing. If you are not doing your work properly, you will be beaten up, and all are subject to sexual abuse. That is must. And even the girls are after a certain period of time, the girls are forced to commercial sexual exploitation. What is the impact of COVID lockdown? These are the many impacts which the COVID lockdown has created us. Like families were on the roads, no work, no money. There were many suicides. Since they wanted to come back to their own villages, but all the rails and transports were shut down, so they had to walk long miles. Many died on the roads only, and many beaten up on the roads. Why? Because you are making so much of a gathering by the law enforcement, and when they are coming back to the village, people are treating them as they are carriers of COVID-19 to their villages, which gives them more of a psychological trauma. And when they come to home with a sweet knowledge, with a sweet dream that okay, they will have some relief at home, but the food shortage in the home compels the whole family to suicide, and many families have undergone suicide. Within India, an estimated of 40 million internal migrant workers, largely in informal economy, were severely impacted by the government's COVID lockdown. And what should be our church's response? It is Proverbs 31:8-9. Speak up for those who cannot speak for themselves, for the rights of all who are destitute. Speak up and judge fairly. Defend the rights of the poor and the needy. This should be church's response. Today, our response, church is not a building. It is the people. If we read all these Bible verses, Acts and First Corinthians and Peter, it will clearly demonstrate that, we are the church. And we should stand for God's people. These migrant laborers who are coming back to your village, they are God's people. And in the beginning only, I have shared with you that what God wants us to do, what type of heart God wants us to have and behave towards the migrant workers. Treat every one migrant worker with dignity, respect, empathy, and compassion. Listen to their concerns patiently and understand their problem. Recognize specific and varied needs of each person without no generalization. Help them acknowledge that this is an unusual situation and uncertainty, and you will be helping them to come back to normal life. Be prepared with all the information of possible sources of help. It may be, any schemes or any job offers which you have in your mind. Please, proactively and deliberately go and share with them. Make them realize that their importance in the community and appreciate that their contribution in the society. If one is a plumber, think if your village runs out of plumbers. Think if your village doesn't have a barber. So they are not migrants. They are equally important in the community. Remind them that they have made their place with their own efforts, acquired the trust of their employer and their families, and therefore they deserve respect. You give them respect, and you should not make them feel that that you are sympathizing. You should make them feel that they deserve it. Reassure that even their employer fails them, local administrator and charitable institution will fail, but God is there to provide all, and you are a child of God. I think that this had been, I just ran very fast. And what are the changes we want to cultivate among the children? That they should understand the risk. They should understand the risk of getting trafficked, risk of understanding that what is safe migration, what is unsafe migration, not only among children but also among parents. That they should also be a good friend, not only parents but friend, and in a friendly way they should understand what is the crisis, and they should also make the children understand. And as congregational leaders, we should do some activities, some conferences, some awareness program talking about unsafe migration and illegal migration in small groups and seminars. Thank you. God bless you.
Thank you, Madam, for informative presentation. Even in a short period of time, you have enlightened us with so many information and knowledge, and also you have challenged us with our own responsibilities as well. Thank you so much, Madam. Now,
Thank you so much.
may I invite Dr. Chuba Longkumer to take the time and present to us his presentation. Sir Chuba Longkumer, if you're here, please.
Thank you, Dr. Marak, for
Yes,
giving me the
time is given to
opportunity.
you now. Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Thanks to Dr. Wati for the invitation. And thanks also to Mrs. Soma for laying the foundations for me so that most of my times are saved and there won't be any redundancy to that. I hope my audio is clear to you.
Yes, very clear.
Absolutely, absolutely.
All right, so here we go. It's on leadership empowerment training, and it's a privilege to be part of this. Jason, the topic that is given to us today is understanding the migrant workers and marginalized diaspora support and care mechanism during and after, I would like to add that, the pandemic. Right, so just an icebreaker. My first participation in a public discourse like this on the issue of migration immigration was in May 2002 at the Our Theological Association conference held at Mount Columba in Bukukchung. And this was the time when there was quite a discussion about illegal Bangladeshi immigrants in Nagaland. And in that conference, I was doing my BD, and yet I don't know why, but I had the privilege to be the seasonal assistant secretary for that conference. And there was a discussion on immigration, and I presented, I mean, in the discussion, it's just a matter of a few minutes, I presented on the looking from the perspectives, from a biblical, from human rights, and from missional perspectives. But those were the days in early 2000 when tribal theology was very strong, and the attitude towards illegal Bangladeshi immigrants was much, much stronger than we have today. And my point of view, the one who spoke after me would more or less ridiculed. But fast forward in like 19 years or so, I feel like I'm more justified at the discussions of immigration matters today. Now, as a flashback of what happened, you might have come across many words in the beginning of the pandemic, like lockdown, people losing their jobs, borders are sealed, stranded returnees unable to get home, and food scarcity, no money to pay their rent even if they're staying back, lots of racism and name callings, and people walking miles, poor quarantine facilities, stigmatization, racism, abuse by employers, abuse by house owners. These may be just to make you recollect what had happened those days. Now, as part of the introduction, different words and concepts about migrants, immigration has been explained, so I would not look into that. But these are the words: migrants, immigrants, clandestine, diaspora, all talks about human mobility. And I always tell, I am a Naga or Indian expat working in Nepal. And I call my American or European friends, migrant workers in Nepal. Because often Western people are called expats and non-Western people are called migrants or immigrants. But all these words, I do not like to differentiate anything for today's presentation, and I would use them all interchangeably. Migration is an age-old phenomenon, but it has been quite accentuated by the economic globalization and technologies of transport and communication, that human mobility has become much easier, and migration is happening much more than before. It's a very sensitive word when we talk about migration and immigration, because it is often politicized. We know BJP and Congress when it comes to, for example, Assam and West Bengal, or when it comes to US, for example, between the Republicans and the Democrats. It's highly politicized for their vote bank politics and many other political mileage that they have. The nature of migration has been already explained. So some are voluntary, some are involuntary, and some are permanent, others are temporary, some are internal migrations, and others are external migrations. I would not explain it more. When it talks about migration, there are positive aspects of it, because, for example, the country that depends upon remittance, that is migrant workers sending money back to the sending nation, and private capital, people are enriched and there's development happening. So migration is a good thing. There are many positive things about it, but there are also many negative untold miseries faced by the migrant workers. We call it 3D jobs, and which is dirty, difficult, and degrading jobs. Many migrants do that. Many migrants, majority of them are in informal and unregulated sectors like constructions and agriculture. And most of the migrants are unskilled or semi-skilled, and there is physical, mental, economic, social challenges, which perhaps we will see few in the later stage. So another thing that is attached to the issue of migrant is that they are considered as labor providers, or sometimes as a burden for the welfare system of destination country. And sometimes other associated terms are such as land grabbers, potential criminals, aliens, strangers, or even possibly a possible terrorist. When we talk about migrants, we need to ask the right question. And the right question is, in whose interest? Is it in the interest of the Democrats or the Republican? Is it in the interest of BJP or the Congress, for example? Is it in the interest of the sending nation or the recipient country? Is it in the interest of employers or the recruiters or the travel agents, the banks and money changers, or many brokers in between? Or is it in the interest of the migrants? And these are very crucial questions when we talk about migrants. A basic foundation towards a theology of migration is that there is no the theology of migration, but various theologies of migration, because it has to depend upon the methodological approaches and the thematic starting points. So when a theme of written from a missional perspective, reaching out to them, it becomes an intercultural theology, still a migrant theology, and some present it as a systematic theology, others present it as an liberation theology, or a pastoral theology, or as missional theology. So we do not have one migration theology, a theology of migration, but there are many theologies because of the different approaches as well as different themes, subject matters that are being addressed. And also it depends upon the geographical locations and the context in which people do it. An immigration issue back home in my place in Nagaland is not similar to the issues that we have in, for example, the place where I live in Kathmandu. Or the issue of migrants in India is different from the issues of migrants in the United States. So theologies differ. The experience of migrants, whatever it is, whichever theology, methodological approach one takes, the experience of the migrants is central to the theological reflections on human mobility. So we need to keep that as a central theme. Daniel Grudy gives 4 conceptual foundations on theology of migration. First, you need to understand that migrants are created in the image of God. The other is to understand Jesus Christ as the son of, migrant son of God. And the third is the universal mission of God, especially preferential option to the poor, the vulnerables. And the fourth is the eschatological dimension of Christian faith, journey in the direction of God's reign. And so these are some of the foundational concepts that many people adapt in the theological studies of migration. Some of the themes of migration theology, when we say themes, it is just a talking point. When somebody does a theology of migration, some of the talking points are on the theology of migration itself and the methodologies. So that's one talking point in talking about a theology of migration. People talk about various approaches and the various themes that are there, and also talks about different contexts in that contributes to the theologizing, to the theological reflection of migrants. The other talking point, this is a summary from the author there, Joe Chino, and He's a Roman Catholic scholar. And the other talking point is of a Christian God from the perspectives of migration. How do we understand God? And most of the discussions around communion and diversity within the Trinity as a coup for theology of migration, or Trinity as a paradigm of the hospitality of God in a multicultural and multi-religious society. Another talking point in the theology, in studying the theology of migration, is the migrant as a metaphor of Christian believers. Christian of being a pilgrim of the reign of God. That is, we are pilgrims too. We are migrants too, and the expression of the fundamental value of the richness, tenacity, and the beauty of faith of the migrants, and how people's reflection of the migrants' reflection of being a Christian and the beauty that they bring into the theological discussion is so rich, and this is one of the talking point. Ecclesiology and migration is another talking point in migration theology. The church itself is a pilgrim, and as a body of believers, you know, in the process of pilgrimage, the church becomes a refuge for the homeless, for the other migrants. These are the talking point, and Christian immigrants help reshape the church as a community deeply aware of the marginalized and the excluded. So a church even changes the demographic when it comes to the study of migration. Other talking points are Catholicity, and because since the author is from a Catholic background, he uses the term Catholicity, but in basic sense, it is the Christian church at large. And Christian church at large is at risk to the context of political nationalism, which is quite prominent these days, these years. And so church becomes sometimes excluded, Christian community become excluded. We are at the risk of not being able to reach out to the vulnerable migrants. And the other is that the universal Christian community is responsible towards inclusion. It is not just a local church or a denomination, but the body of Christ. So that's another talking point in the migration theology. And in migration theology, migrant woman talks on more gender issues, and migration relatedness is a major talking point, and also about women migrants and their vulnerabilities. So that is another talking point in the migration theology. Another talking point is the irregular migrants, or sometimes called as illegal immigration or undocumented immigration. Undocumented, illegal, irregular, whichever vocabulary one chooses, has a major talking point in doing theology of migration. Yeah, and also in that preferential option for the irregular or illegal migrant is a major talking point. Theology of migration and interreligious dialogue is another talking point in theology of migration, and because majority of the migrants who are non-Christians in the context of Europe, also in the West, is there's so much of religious and cultural diversities and many times tensions. So the interreligious dialogue has been one of the talking point in dealing with the theology of migration in order to build up healthy relationship. Another talking point for migration theology is so-called hospitality. That is welcoming, the attitude of welcoming, to a critical reading of what hospitality means biblically, pastoral, ethical, spiritual, theological, cultural, gender-wise. So hospitality as being human, and then often also the abuse of hospitality. So one does something good and then it is been taken advantage. So these are many issues and talking points that people address when doing a theology of migration. Right, I had to run fast. That's why just a brief introduction, what's happening when we talk about theology of migration. Some of the biblical motives that biblical theology addresses, and some of them has already mentioned, I will just read through. These are the motives, biblical motives that people discuss when they talk about Christian response or theological response to migration. For example, Adam and Eve migrating out of the Garden of Eden. Also, the talking point for involuntary migration, because it is not voluntarily migrated out of Eden. The patriarch of Israel's migration to Egypt. And then the people of Israel migrating back to the promised land. Ruth's migration to the land of Israel as a foreigner and as a woman immigrant. Israel's dispersion in the Assyrian kingdom, Judah's exile to Babylon, the Jews' return to the land of Judah, and when we come to New Testament, newborn Jesus taking refuge in Egypt as a migrant, and the dispersion of Jews, Jewish Christian.
I'm not going to press for me.
Right. Those who are co-hosts, you can quickly unmute them when such things happen. Yeah. And the dispersion of the Jewish Christians, for example, and Jesus as the paradigm of the migrant. Jesus in a very casual, lay people's word, leaving the heavenly world and coming to the earth as migrating. And then Christians as migrant pilgrims. So these are some of the biblical motives that are being discussed from the scripture. There are various biblical texts. I will give some for you to explore. And God who comes as guest, like in Genesis 18. And for you were immigrants in the land of Egypt, addressing the people of God, Israel. God loves the foreigner, which Mrs. Soma has already explained in Deuteronomy. Here I quoted from 10, but there are several other verses in the book of Deuteronomy to love the foreigners. And the credo of Deuteronomy, that is, my father was a wandering Aramean, and then they went to Egypt and come all the entire history of Israel in a nutshell. And God dwelling in a tent rather than in a temple, First Chronicles. Jesus, the descendants of strangers, the foreign women in his genealogy. Jesus identified himself with the strangers, Matthew 2, John 1, and the incarnated Christ pitching his tent among people. Jesus has nowhere to lay his head. Or Christian communities were composed of immigrants and strangers, First Peter. God knocking on the door of humanity, Revelation 3. Also, these are few, but many other biblical texts are being explored in doing theological reflection on migrants. Okay, so this is for you. When it comes to the marginalized migrant workers, which is the crux of today's topic, is that in general, migrants are marginalized in economically, socially, culturally, politically. And so Graziano identifies 4 exclusions and any policies that concerns migrants. There are 4 sorts of exclusions. One is an economic exclusion, that is restriction on economic activities of the immigrants. Social exclusion, example like lack of access to social welfare system and healthcare. Cultural exclusion, struggles on culture and identity and all sorts of related that comes racism and all sorts. And political exclusions, migrants do not belong to the political community of the receiving country. Yeah, so this is in general, there are 4 areas. But because it's too vast, I would like to, and also because I live in Nepal and our students are part of it, and most of the teachers too from an Indian context, I thought, why not introduce you the context of Nepal so that perhaps some of you might be influenced. So here, when we talk about the marginalized migrant workers, this is the case of Nepal. Right, so for example, Nepal is on the list of countries that receive the highest remittance in proportion to GDP. The average remittance inflow over the last 10 years has been 25% of the GDP. So that's a huge remittance. That is money being sent by the migrant workers back to Nepal. Nepal received US dollar like 8.79 billion in one fiscal year from remittance in 2018-19, which is accounted for 28% of GDP for that particular fiscal year. And as of the fiscal year 1920, the number of a labor permit holder for foreign employment is 5 million. The place that I come from in Nagaland, the population is just 2.2 million. You can imagine. And whereas the numbers of workers left for foreign employment is like 4.7 million working out of the country. And it's not talking about Nepalese who are already Indian citizens in different states of India. It is talking about Nepali citizens, the citizens of Nepal, okay? So of the migrant workers, 4.555 million are men and 2.037 million are women migrant workers who worked outside of Nepal. Of those who have gone for foreign employment, 1.5% are skilled, just a tiny fraction, tiny portion. 20% are semi-skilled, and 74.5% are unskilled. And these are the ones working in many unregulated informal sectors. Due to the migration of young people, Nepal faces an increasing portion of the dependent population. You go to Nepali villages, there are only elderly people and children, no young people. People have migrated to work elsewhere. Internal migration, some of them come to the capital or the industrial places within Nepal, and external international migration. Factors for foreign employment, why people go to work is because they face poverty. Poverty is one that drives them to go and work elsewhere. Unemployment is like poverty 32%, unemployment 27%. They want to have a better livelihood, 17%. Some people just go out because they have too much loans to pay, and then they work and then earn and then pay back. 11% better economic status. I think better livelihood, and they are more or less the same in some ways. And then some go because of family pressure, others go because of just peer pressures, but these are small portion. Apart from India, because 37% of Nepali migrant workers work in India. These are very hard to keep track of, but apart from India, places like Qatar, Malaysia, Saudi Arabia, UAE, Kuwait, Bahrain, and these days to many other European countries like Turkey, Portugal, Greece, places that Nepali migrant workers go. The challenges that they face, migrant workers in their workplace, is employment and wage discrimination. This is massive challenges they face. No payment or lower payment of wages, excessive or unreasonable work demand. Many people, as Mrs. Soma has talked about, are lured, they're through fraud, and they are trapped into forced labor, and to force them to do labors, long working hours, no off days, restriction for public holidays or even annual leave, very poor and hazardous working condition, poor living condition, physical abuses, and lack of protective gears where they worked, and too many workplace injuries and fatalities. Migrant workers, they face less payments, trafficked for commercial sex, physical violence against them, sexual violence, and verbal abuses. Socio-cultural challenges such as lack of social protection, no welfare, and too many language and cultural barriers, racism, and deprived of legal option. They can't go anywhere for legal matters, and lack of good friends, and they end up coming together, drink too much alcohol, and homesickness, uh, away from home, living difficult life, and they go through such situations. And health-wise, they are exposed to workplace hazards and injuries and work-related diseases. Too many injuries like breaking their hand, breaking their legs. These are minor, but major injuries also happened. Anxiety and depression is a major challenges faced by the migrant workers. Situational disinhibition, that is, because they are away from the community, away from their family, they live together, men and women engage in many risky sexual behaviors, and we have returned migrant workers who have many of them have faced HIV/AIDS problem, STDs, and skin diseases, tuberculosis, respiratory diseases, urinary tract infections, other hookworms, and many other diseases are prevalent among the returned migrant workers. Alcoholism, intake of alcohol is a major issue for the migrants, and suicide. Suicide is Nepal is very high, especially among the migrant workers. For example, in 2018, out of 800, somewhere around 800 plus dead in foreign land among the migrant workers, 132 were out of suicide. In 2019, 700 plus dead record, and then suicide was 111. So you can imagine that is even before pandemic. The suicide rate of the migrants, the anxiety, depression, and mental health situation is very challenging, very sad, pathetic situation that they face. Many high mortality rate, people die a lot. And not only them, but the left behind family, youth, they leave for work, and then elderly women and children are left behind. There is no in such places, socially, economically, they live in a very insecure environment. Extramarital affairs happens not only for the left behind, but also those who go for work. Divorce is a major issue among the migrant workers. A very poor healthcare, poor nutrition, and because all the young people have left, added workloads to the elderly and the women and even children. They have to work a lot, and no time for family. So very poor family life. These are challenges issued by the migrant workers. I will give that, and some of them, these two I will just skip. One is about the vulnerability, which we have discussed. Other one is the death of migrant workers since 2013 record. And that doesn't include India. Now, because we are also dealing with COVID-19 as a specific perspective for this class, migrant workers, apart from their usual, challenges that they face because of the COVID, one major issue is that many migrants lost their jobs. The table shows in Malaysia, 30% of Nepali migrant workers lost their job. UAE, 30% lost their job. In Qatar, out of 4,25,000, 20% lost their job. In Saudi Arabia, 20% lost their jobs, and so on. So many people lost their jobs. And close to 1 million migrant workers have returned to Nepal during the pandemic. Since the beginning of the pandemic, very close to 1 million Nepali migrant workers have returned. And those who have a pre-approval to go, I mean, they are being halted. Now you can imagine 1 million workforce returned, and then thousands of workforce that are not being, sent out. The unemployment problem that it adds to the already existing unemployment problem in Nepal. It is a tremendous, very sad situation that we face here. Yep. The co-host can, yeah, thank you. So the pandemic has pushed the vulnerable migrant workers and their families even further, deeper into poverty. You remember, poverty was the reason why they went to work and earn, and then they have returned. And you can imagine how deeper they would go into poverty due to this. Those who have returned face non-payment of salary or tremendous wage cut. And those who return empty-handed are unable to pay off the loans that they have taken. In Nepal, there is a trend. Many people take loan to go for work elsewhere. And if their earning is not good, they can't pay back the loan, and their life is worse than before. Such situations are happening in Nepal. Children from poor migrant families are forced to drop out after schools, and then they end up as child laborers. And after they return, no place to work upon their return. All this adds up to anxieties, depression, and suicide. So quite a pathetic situation, especially among the migrant workers in Nepal. Quickly, some of the care and support mechanism. First is that Christian solidarity and advocacy towards the needs of the migrant workers, as identified by the International Labour Organization for Nepal. So these are purely identified for Nepal by International Labour Organization. And the church should take this and speak out, be a voice for the voiceless. The Christian community must be a voice for the voiceless. We Christian communities cannot solve everyone's problem, or may not even solve, a little bit of it, but it is our responsibility to raise a voice for the voiceless. Some of the areas that are identified which needs to address is on health and job, vulnerable group of people, immediate, short-term responses, deportation, discrimination, mental health, information, relief, and the returns, right? And then in long-term, like managing reintegration, managing grievances, remittances, job security. I mean, these are many things. I mean, these are one that should be done by the government. But for example, when Nepal government said they will create 7 lakhs job for the returnees. I mean, in paper it is really good, but what about the implementation? The church and the Christian community must follow up in policy makings as well as in the implementation of such matters by the government. We cannot remain spectators, but be a voice for the voiceless. A theological reflection, not necessarily in the short term, but in the long term, we need to initiate theological and ethical discourses on migrant workers. And not just in Nepal, it is quite lacking in Nepal, but the place that I came from, even in Nagaland, there is not much theological discourses on migrant workers, those who are in Nagaland, or Naga migrant workers, those who go out of the state. There is still lacking a lot on theological reflections. All migrants allow migrants to express their own pathos in the light of their faith. And this is very important. We are not only a voice for the voiceless, but our job in our theologizing is to enable the voices to have their own voice. And these two are totally different. One is we stand on behalf of them. The other is we empower them to have their own voice. And that is what we need in our theological reflection. And in the long run, it is good if Nepali Christians in Nepal formulate a biblical and contextual Nepali migrant theology. And I don't know whether that happens in different states in India or in other parts, but that would be in the long run very, very helpful. When we talk about pastoral and missional response, some of them can be like solidarity with the poor and oppressed by giving cash in hand or relief or all sorts of needs, physical needs, but also by being with them, listening to their stories. And then share Christian hospitality, welcome the strangers. I wonder how many churches or Christian NGOs have really literally welcomed those who have returned. The returnees are like nearly 1 million. And share Christian hope and salvation. I would comment this, especially on Nepali churches. They are very good in reaching out and sharing the gospel and planting churches among the diaspora Nepalese and among the migrant workers. So something really good is happening in Nepal. And establish community and support network. The churches can pool resources and do things and offer care and counseling, especially emotional and mental health must be given a urgency, because worst of all is that emotional and mental health of the returnees or the migrant workers who are working elsewhere. The other one is emphasis on information technology to facilitate labor mobility. These are, I will just send you this one, but these are recommendations to be done by either government or NGOs or civil societies, but church can participate. A church can prepare migrant workers before they go. What should be expected as much as possible, prepare them. And then also prepare them because there are diaspora churches, many churches in Malaysia, in UAE, and in Qatar. There are so many Nepali churches planted, and the church can pool resources together here and there, and then work towards preparing the migrants and also those who have returned or reintegrate after they come back and to come back to the country. And the churches must be quite updated in information technology so that we can engage in facilitating such labor mobility. And other possibilities can be to teach on dignity of labor and livelihood and subsistence economies in the context of reverse migration, or also called as return migration. And life skill trainings can be given. Christian churches can be actively involved in this. Care to the migrant workers' children. Children are so much neglected in this bigger picture, and that can be done by the church, by Christian community, wherever possible. Soft loans for startups, for businesses, and job creation where possible. Set up orientation platforms for prospective migrants, and sending Nepali missionaries to diaspora Nepali churches. This can be easily done if only the church pool resources together, and set up specific ministries in Nepal to reach out to the returnees. So many other possibilities such as this can be done by the Christian community. And in appreciation of the works of Nepali diaspora churches, and they're doing really great. And this is one of the example of in Malaysia, where Nepali Christians, they are trained to provide weekly counseling sessions to migrant workers in distress during pandemic. So such things are something to appreciate. Right. So in conclusion, I would like to give two quotations. One from a person who works in UAE, and he was tested positive. At such times, you realize no one is really there for you. Not the embassy, not the Nepali community groups, not your employer. Can we be there for people such as this? And they will say, Christ was there. The other quotation is from Peter Fan, from his article, Dios Migrator. The migrant is the person in and through whom I can discover my true identity, who I am, a migrant, or better still, a co-migrant with Jesus, the paradigmatic migrant, and with fellow migrants, all of us energized by the push and pull of the Holy Spirit on our migration back to the home of Dios Migrator, God the migrant, God on the move. Thank you so much for listening, and there ends my short time with you. Thank you.
Enable the voiceless to have their own voice. Thank you, sir, Chuba, for a wonderful presentation. And it was really insightful. You have presented your presentation on the perspective of the Nepal. It was really informative and so challenging. Now, as usual, I would like to give the time for all the participants for any question or discussion. And as I have said in the beginning, I have asked the participants to put the questions in the chat box, and there are a few questions there, and I think we can take the questions from the chat box one after the other. And if Madam Soma is still here.
Yes, I'm here.
Yes. Okay. If Madam Soma is still here, and she is here still, there is a question for you from the chat box where it says, do we call migrant to them who are not skilled, or to show our superiority on them? Moreover, this issue have been politically motivated more for voting purpose. Please highlight on these points for Soma. This question comes from Biswa Ranjan Mohanty.
So, Brother Vishwaranjan Mohanty, good. This is a good question. So, do we call migrant to them who are not skilled? Now, first, I want to understand one fact, that what is the difference between skilled labor and unskilled labor? You know, so we need to first identify this, that what is skilled labor. If I have my own degrees, so I am a skilled labor, but the helper who helps me in my household chores, she has her definite set of degrees, maybe degrees in the sense she might not be academically skilled, but her hands on the machines and hands on the maybe household chores are much more prompt than me. So it is like although there might be some aspects of unskilled labor, but definitely like the maximum portion is always skilled labor, and skilled labor has its own like A, B, C is one set, then D, E, F is one set. So it is like set A is one set, B is another set, C is another set, and it varies from country to country. And moreover, these issues have been politically motivated. Which issues are you want to like? I'm not very getting it very clear. Which issues? Like the migration issues?
Yes,
Okay.
Yes. The migrants, because politically they make they motivate the migrant because that is their political voting bank. They made it as a voting bank.
Very nice.
Yeah, that is what they're doing now.
Yeah. Now see, politics uses a trump card, and now the trump card is Aryan Khan. Today it can be Aryan Khan, tomorrow it will be migrants, the third day it will be COVID itself. So you never know. So it is not only that the politicians are using migrants as their trump card. It is when Nirbhaya Hatyakand was there, that time BJP used Nirbhaya as trump card. Now Congress is using Asifa as a trump card. They only need something to play with and to prove that the other party is wrong and they are right. So it is not only confined to migrants. Secondly, yeah, I think I could answer your questions, brother.
Yeah, because now this political party make it such that you have to think migrants are something else. Means you are giving them a favor, everything. That's things they're politically they're motivating the people like that. That is what I want to tell. Because as they have this migrant people as they live at one place, so they make it their vote bank for that. So they make them assure that this is my vote bank. I'm going to get 5,000 and 10,000 or 20,000 votes from that place. So they are doing it like that. That is what I want to say.
See, the vote bank is not only the migrants; it is also like the immigrants. Okay, if you understand the context of West Bengal, it is more of immigrants, those who are not internal migrants. And again, to come back to the point, the migrants are promised something, but they are given something, and the media actually highlights it more.
Yes, yes, yeah. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yes, we have more questions for Madam Soma, and this question is coming from Manoj Kumar. Here is the question. Madam, I am running a human rights NGO in Punjab, India, and lot of Bihari and Uttar Pradesh unskilled labor is here, but we have many cases of human trafficking where girls are purchased and brought. So my question is, how to work effectively in migrant labor issue?
So the cases which I have dealt with, Brother Manoj, from West Bengal and mainly Bihar and many parts of Odisha, it is like these girls are, this is called bride trafficking. So these girls are married and they are taken, and with all the cost on the groom's side. So the girl's family is very much in peace that economically my girl is going in a better place. But after she is married in Uttar Pradesh or Haryana, she is made to serve the bride of the whole family, of the whole the male people, those who live in that under that roof. So that is the scenario there. And how you can protest against it is, as I told you, that like I always say that India has a very good slogan for education, that each one teach one. So you set your own target, that in a year how many people are you going to teach and aware and sensitize about human trafficking? How much are you aware of this issue? If not, then in your church or in your organization, call for a conference or a workshop where not only you but your entire team will be aware of what is safe, unsafe migration, what is human trafficking, what the law says about it. Many people in India today are fooled because they don't know the law. What does IPC says? What does ITPA says? What is FOXO telling us about? What is the child labor law says about? What is the what do you say, bonded labor law say? We don't know. That's why we can't open our mouth, and we can't we can't shout, and we need to shout. Of course, like Christians are said to be submissive and quiet people, peace loving people, but Jesus was nowhere pro injustice. When he saw that they were making business outside the temple, he got angry and he threw everything off. So he protested. So today, are we in a position? Am I in a position to protest, not fearing that I will be shot down by somebody? I will be harassed by the political parties. Are we willing? Do we have that courage? If you have that courage, you come up, and I commit from my side that whatever help is required in training, I will support.
Yeah, my question, excuse me, madam. My
Yes.
question then comes is that, okay, one is awareness, another is like advocacy, because we see like in the villages, no, what I find is that when it comes to unskilled migrant labor, or especially the females, I don't think there is any kind of a union or society is there, no, which has some kind of a calculation or counting or some kind of, nothing is there. All things are scattered and unorganized.
Yeah.
Huh.
So it is through that only. See, when we are talking about awareness and sensitization, it is very important to meet the end to end. Means the source and the destination. Haryana is the destination. Uttar Pradesh is the destination. You need to first find out, investigate what is the source. So you have to partner with an organization in the source area also, so that in the destination area you are there to take care of. And when you are taking care, you are rescuing those people from there. When you are aware that legally what you can do, what does law tell about this, then only you can sensitize them. Otherwise you can't.
Yes, madam.
Okay. So once you sensitize them and they are ready to be rescued, you take the help of the administration, rescue them back to their source, and you have a partner NGO or the church in the source areas also to rehabilitate them. Yeah.
Thank you. Surely I will contact you later. Yeah.
Sure. Any other questions?
I think there is one question for Dr. Chuba also. Dr. Chuba, sir, are you still here?
Yep.
Oh, yes. The question is coming from
Yes.
Mr. Biswa Ranjan Mohanty again. And the question for you is, what steps can be taken to enable the voiceless to have their voice?
Okay, thank you for the question. In a general setting, there might be places where their stories are allowed to be told. Media is one, NGOs do that. But the context that I'm talking about was theologizing, that is, in terms of the migrants' self-reflection in understanding their experience, their faith journey, walk with God, their understanding of God, their worldviews, their perceptions about what's going on, is what I wanted to put there when we say enable the voiceless to have their voice. And the best thing is allow them to express their suffering, allow them to express their experiences, allow them what it means to have their faith in God, and they live and work as a migrant worker. We do not create such platforms so far. I don't know in India, but in Nepal, the churches, all that the churches do is go and preach the gospel and bring the migrant workers to Christ, and that's how many churches are being planted in different parts of the world among the diaspora Nepalis and migrant workers. And yet their stories are not being told, and their stories are not being made known to even to the believers here in Nepal, for example. And so the church, I would say a theological community, must create such platforms simply by allowing them to express themselves, especially their faith journey. Yeah, I hope that answers.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, we still have some more questions. I think this question is a general question for both the facilitators. And the question is coming from Purnuksang Ozukam. The question goes like this. In regard to Indian context, the government of India tried to pass the law for the migrants from the neighboring countries to India, and many citizens of India tried to oppose that law. What will be the Christian response to the government and also to the citizens? I think both the facilitators can try answering this question.
Should I go ahead? Or?
Yeah, Soma, go ahead, because I am not quite familiar with that. I mean, the person who asked the question has not indicated what law it refers to. So I'm
I
Yes.
think he is referring to
14 Foreigners Act.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Citizenship Amendment Bill.
yeah. So the famous act which actually goes for in India, which is mostly referred to as the 14 Foreigners Act. Okay. Now, see, we as Christians, what is my understanding is like when even in our scriptures, and Jesus always tells that give to Caesar what is Caesar's and give to God what is God's. So he has never said that Christianity is something which is going against the law. So we will have to abide by the law of the land we are residing. That is correct me, Sir Chuba, if I am going right, because you are a theologian. So we have to respect the law of the land, and keeping that in mind, in fact, we have to deal with these migrants. You know, in many times these migrants, as both in my sharing and Chuba sir also shared, that it is that those push factors which is resulting in unsafe migration. No, so we have to create some sensitizing efforts, awareness, advocacy, so that much of these communities, these rural communities, are sensitized. They come to understand that everything is not what is shown. The glossy picture of life, it is not the same, and these are the things which you have to keep in mind before migrating somewhere. So we have to take that perspective and bring them at par with the government, so that tomorrow all of them in rural India, they will understand the law of the land, they will respect it, and they will not fall prey to these migrating agents or traffickers. And I'm sure by respecting the law of the land, we are responding to our Christian standards well.
No,
I hope I could.
Soma, I would disagree with some of the things you said. They have enacted the law to create communal tension by some vested political communal party. So how can a Christian or a citizen simply accept a law that divides the people in line with the religion? And also we have to recognize that especially from Bangladesh,
Dr.
there are many environmental prisoners, refugees, immigrants, because of the development work taking place in China and India. They have no force on them, but they have no space to live because of the, environmental destruction. So I think we need to see this from the wider context.
Yeah, can I just explain? See, the question which was there, it was not about it. Nothing spoke about the religion. Like when some church is persecuted in India, there is ADF, there is persecution relief, where we are vouching and standing against the heinous crime which is being done against a particular religion. So that is separate. And migrants, when it comes to migrants, it is irrespective of any religion. We cannot confine migrants of one religion only, because there are migration happening irrespective of any religion. Do you think that in COVID there is only one religion migrants, those who migrated? No. But yes, their rights has been exploited. So that fight is different. That fight is different. It is now
the question is raised in the context of citizenship amendment bill. That's why I'm just referring to that. Otherwise, what you said, I fully agree.
Yeah,
Thank
because
you.
even in my sharing, I told that those fighting the migration against the government is forcing the migrants to leave the land based upon their ethnicity, based upon their religion. And when that is happening, we have to address it. We have to address it as from a religious perspective. But at the same time, when migration is happening because of sheer ambition, because of lack of awareness, lack of education, at those point of time, we as small bodies of Christ, we have to take charge of our own community, own villages, and keep sensitizing those points.
I think the question is coming in the context of the Citizenship Amendment Act, CAA. Here it was written Citizenship Amendment Bill, but it is no longer a bill, it is an act now.
Yeah.
Yes, yes.
See, again, this whether it's a bill or an act, we all know the agenda behind agenda. What is the real agenda behind it? What is being shown to the public is just an eyewash. We all know that. And we also have to be as smart as serpents while we are defending and protesting against it. Definitely, I am not standing for it. But I cannot show the real cause why I am not fighting. What is my real cause behind? I cannot show it on papers. So many Christian NGOs are being closed today on the aspect of so many cases. But when we are fighting against it, we have to just keep that religious aspect behind and show all the legal aspect, that this is our FCRA, this is our audit, this is our FC3, all papers intact. Because until unless they play that religion card, we voluntarily we cannot push that issue. So we all know that why the CAA Citizen Amendment Bill is being passed, approved. We all know. But then what I am trying to say is that we all have to play safe.
Yeah, if there's no further question, Namseng can wind up. Only 5 minutes more. Namseng, he seems to have lost. Namseng?
Can you hear me now, sir?
Yeah. You can wind up.
Yeah, yes, my connection was disconnected for a while. Sir, then can we wind up the session for today?
Yes,
tonight?
please. Yeah.
Okay.
It's a little
Will there be any information from you before we close?
Yeah, next month on 11th and 12th we have scheduled to have a class, but we will have on 11th and after a break of 1 week on 18th we'll have the closing class, because on 11 we want to give you assignment for selection of prize and certificate. So we will give a short time for you to answer a week time. So we will have a little change in the schedule. I will let you know. Please take note of that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, sir. So let us come to the close of this session for this evening. I would like to say thank you to the organizers and also the facilitators. We have had a very meaningful presentation and also meaningful discussions as well. And we have been made to understand about our own responsibilities as individuals and as the church as well. So I would like to thank both the facilitators of this evening, and also I extend my thankfulness to all the participants of this program. Now let us come to the close of this program with a prayer. Sir, Dr. Gain, are you still here?
No.
Yeah. Yes.
Yes, sir.
No.
Sir, if you're since you are here, I would like to request you to kindly dismiss us with a prayer.
Okay. Loving God, we thank you for the time that you gave us. We have learned the things that we ought to do, and we have been encouraged to unlearn that doesn't do any good to our fellow human beings. Help us to follow your dictum. We are also grateful to you for the resource persons whom you have blessed abundantly to enlighten us. Bless them continually in their respective areas, in their duties and responsibilities, and equip them more and more with your knowledge, that they can be truly resourceful continually to help your people and to serve your people in the respective areas. Now, as we disperse from this place, may the grace of our Lord Jesus Christ, the love of God, and the communion